Hey, welcome back to another Habs Notebook Show with the hockey coach, Coach Francis, directly from a beautiful country of Thailand. An amazing, great Wednesday night, April 9, 2025. Hopefully, an amazing, great week so far, middle of the week. And of course, tonight we're going to talk about the Montreal Canadiens, like what we do all the time the Wednesday night, and recap game, plus the big news for the Montreal Canadiens. Don't forget, tomorrow we're going to have another game NHL play-by-play. Tomorrow, we're going to follow the big game between the New York Islanders and the New York Rangers. They're going. One of the two is going to be knocked out of the playoff. The Rangers right now winning 1-0 against the Flyers at the beginning of the second period, and both of them are behind the Montreal by 8 or 9 points. So that's could be a very important game for both of the team. It's a must-win anyway for all the other chasing team behind the Montreal Canadiens. Friday night, we want to do the game between the Montreal Canadiens and the Ottawa Senators. And Ottawa, Montreal going to play a back-to-back game during the weekend. Friday night and Ottawa is Saturday, the hockey night in Canada for the game in Toronto. So join us live talking about the Montreal Canadiens. Join the Montreal Canadiens fans. Don't forget to subscribe. Click on the like. We grow slowly, properly. We are right now 9,122 subscribers inside the channel. And of course, you can follow me on my X account, Code Friendship and X. You can send us email at askcodefriendship at gmail.com. And of course, we want to welcome everybody. Don't forget, please, to follow us every single night. We present a show for the Montreal Canadiens, or we do a play-by-play for the Montreal Canadiens, and a show for the Notebook. Without him, it would be impossible. Back in the house, of course, directly from Hawkesbury and Ontario, ready to talk about the Montreal Canadiens and other news around the NHL. It's not friend, Mr. Marko Larabi is in the house tonight.
Yes, Coach. Super happy that you can have me on. I could barely contain my excitement yesterday. There's so much to talk about, so much excitement going on right now. I've been with you guys. I've been with the channel since I guess right after we drafted Slavkovsky, and it's been some lean times, Coach. Lean times since we've been working together doing the show, and things are turning around.
Yes.
Things are turning around.
I think it
It's
was
very exciting.
important to be patient, and then we're going to see, with the pay off of what happening for the team, of course, and definitely as the future looking bright for the Montreal Canadiens, and we'll talk about what happening yesterday. So I want to give you an update. The San Jose Sharks is right now lead the Minnesota Wild at 1-0 at that moment. And what I'm talking about this because the Wild are right now only 4 points in front of the Calgary Flame, and the Flame play tonight against the Ducks. So if the
Yeah.
Wild lose tonight, the Flame win tonight, only 2 points. And what happening? Friday night, the Calgary Flame play against the Minnesota Wild. So
Good news for Minnesota, though. They just got a couple guys back off Erickson Ek and Kaprizov off IR. So that's really, really needed for them because sinking like a stone, the Minnesota Wild over the last couple weeks. So should be an interesting stretch run for both those teams.
and Toronto beat right now the Tampa Bay Lightning, but a score 2-1 at the end of the second period with 2 minutes 41 seconds to go. And we want to welcome back Mr. Ken Scott is in the house. George, welcome back. Dan, welcome back. Long time, Mr. Dan. Let's see you around. PLW, go with Guerrero tonight. Butch, Roger, notre ami Roger de Vermont is in the house. Like I said, I'm in Thailand, Ken and Pattaya. By the way, Mr. 42, welcome back. 42, long time. Luc Fortin, de retour avec nous ce soir. 007, salut mon homme. Merci d'être avec nous. Larry Lavallée. I don't think we saw Larry like yesterday. Hopefully you're doing well, Larry. He's on the last my couple of days or week before he returned to the East in New York. About this, notre ami Real is in the house tonight. Welcome back. RG Calabro is in the house now. RJ, I don't know if you are the Rangers game or not. Let me know in the chat. I think you're going to be at the game, but I don't know you're in the chat. So A little bit confusing, but hopefully you're doing well. Directly from New Jersey. Stand the man back in the house, WHT. Parrot is in the house also. And Bren, welcome back. Thanks for everybody to be a part of the show tonight. Christian Shaw knocked the door tonight. Welcome back, Christian, and everybody. Of course, the subject of the night going to talk about the magic number is 3 for the Montreal Canadiens. And this is not about 3 win, Marco, but it's more about a combination of win and losing between the Montreal Canadiens and all the team behind the Montreal. I'm talking about Detroit, Columbus, Islanders, and Rangers. So Montreal could be at home and wait for the next game and what happening. But again, the magic, the number can drop at 1, honestly. So it will be interesting to follow up. We're going to talk about that magic number. And of course, Mr. Evan Demidov, we're going to talk about him tonight at some point. We'll welcome back also Claude Richard, welcome back. Then is a Dixon Automotive Group in the house. I apologize for that. I remember more you as a Dixon, of course. Dan from on the west of Ontario. Welcome back, Dan. Thanks to be a part of the show tonight. I tried to get his music, Mr. Marko. Can I get it for him? Here we go. Is GT44, Mr. Dan, and welcome back, by the way. And that's something. He's still in Russia, in Turkey, or in Montreal. Any
Coach, do we
update
have
about
somebody
that?
called do we have somebody called Georges Doucet in our chat right now? Isn't that the name of the like famous anthem singer in Montreal, Georges Doucet?
It was Roger Doucet.
Roger Doucet.
Ouais.
Okay.
Mr. Glad. That's another subject for another time. Welcome back. Yeah, so Demidov, is it in Montreal, Toronto? Is it stop in Italy? What's going on?
So, listen, it's hard to get. So, by the way, before we, kind of get into all this stuff, we want to give our props to a friend of the show, Marko D'Amico. He's been on the show a couple times. Great friend of the show. And so great by Marko to break this news. I'm sure everybody kind of by now knows that he was the one that was talking to Demidov when he signed his contract. So great for Marko to kind of break that news. So from what we learned today, Coach, we don't exactly know where he is. Like I think there was some reports that he was already in the air, but ultimately, the important thing is that he's coming. We don't know exactly where he is. The most credible reports that I've heard is that they expect him to probably join the team in Toronto on Saturday. Like he'll probably land in Toronto on Friday. Sorry, while Montreal's in Ottawa playing, he'll probably land in Toronto, and then the team will just kind of meet him in Toronto. That's kind of where I think
and the problem is the visa, by the way.
Yeah, so it's two things, right? So he has to get here. The most important thing for them is to get him out of Russia before they change their mind, before something weird happens. Just get him over here as soon as possible. That was the most important thing. And then I'm sure Montreal Canadiens, they have lots of resources. I'm sure they have the best people working to kind of figure out the visa stuff. But from what we understand, he'll probably arrive in Toronto Friday night, and then Montreal, after they play Ottawa, they go into Toronto on Saturday night. So he'll probably meet his teammates there for the first time. And then we're just waiting for the visa. And from what we've heard, it could take anywhere between 3 to 4 days to kind of get that worked out. So that's kind of where we stand now. So based on all that, I think we were talking about it in the chat last night, Coach. I think most people believe that if he was going to play his first game, it's likely that would be against Chicago early next week. Yeah.
Some people say he's a Turkey.
Okay, could be. Like it's a long flight, right? So live it up. He probably hasn't been out of Russia for maybe his entire life, right? So because again, one thing that we can't forget, guys, about Demidov, it's not like former Russian players, right, where they played a whole bunch of international tournaments, traveled all across the world playing tournaments. Because of COVID and because of the war in Ukraine and everything like that, I don't know if Demidov's actually ever left Russia. Like, I know he hasn't played much international hockey. So this might be the first time that he actually is
He
out of
came to the
Russia.
NHL draft.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. So
Right?
that's a good point. But otherwise it's just something to be aware of, right? Like he hasn't traveled, he hasn't he's never played a game on the smaller ice surface before or anything like that. So yeah, very exciting coach. Like bottom line, he's on his way. He's coming. And that's what's most important.
Right? He looked like he's a Turkey, Istanbul. Istanbul is the airport, one of the biggest airport in the world. When I flew here, I stopped Istanbul. I have to to stay there for 13 hours for some reason.
Wow.
But
Wow.
it's like a city inside the airport, like a shopping mall. You can buy a car. It's crazy. It's like it's a
Wow.
s- it's a city. Like you cannot be
Wow.
boring there. And then you have a sleep over. You have bed. You can sleep. Because the people, it's an airport like they go after that, like Chicago or air, right? You can fly after that everywhere. So that's the same thing. Istanbul, you can go from Istanbul everywhere around the world. So people stay there normally 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 hours, and you
Wow.
can rent a bed, and it's just like a table with a small mattress, and you go there, and then you close the over top over you. So it's pretty
No
impressive.
cheese though, right? No cheese in the
No,
airport
or
though.
maybe a cheese
No.
beside me, but I didn't see the cheese at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
I know you're not a big I know you're not a big movie guy, coach, but there's this Tom Hanks movie where because of some conflict or whatever, he gets stuck in an airport and he has to live in the airport. I forget the name of the movie, but he's like a refugee and he's in an airport, and because of some like all kinds of political stuff, he ends up living in the airport for months and months. Somebody in the chat must know what
Already,
the name of the movie is. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the
Yeah, you
Flyers
could
tied
live
the
in an
game,
airport.
1-1.
Wow.
So
Nice.
never know what could happen tonight for the New York Rangers. First of all, we want to take a moment to talking about two people passed away, two impactful people in hockey on many ways, on different ways. Ray Shero passed away at 62 years old. At the end, he was working with Minnesota Wild, recognized as a GM with the Pittsburgh Penguins when they won in 2008, 9,
Yeah.
the Stanley
Yeah.
Cup. And then
Yeah.
Greg Millen, ex NHL goaltender, and the voice of the Sportnet for 30 years. So, two, like I said, two an icon in hockey in different ways. And if you don't know Ray Shero, but he was the son of who?
Phil Shiro? Is it Phil?
Fred Shero.
Fred Shiro. Fred
Yeah,
Shiro. Yeah.
Fred Shero make his name as a head coach of the Flyers, won the Stanley Cup winner. So that's bad news. It's young when you think it's almost my age. It's my
Very
age.
young.
So 62, 67, I believe, Miller.
67. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Very sad coach, like very young. So for Ray Shiro, like, like very respected hockey executive, won those cups, had some time, I think, in Edmonton and Boston as well, too. So fingerprints on many different organizations. Greg Millen, very sad story there too. Like I think he had a battle of cancer, won that, and died of I think it might have been a heart attack or something. So very young guys, very impactful. Like I said, like big, like a huge losses for the hockey community. The Terminal. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for bringing that up. Was the name of the movie. But yeah, Craig Millen, guys, like he was one of the original guys that was on Sportsnet. He was one of the first people that launched that network. Him and like Nick Kiprios and John Houston. So he was there right from the beginning when Sportsnet started. And he good NHL career too. Coach, we were talking about the Hasek or Urbe type mask that he wore, like the grill or whatever that he used to wear. So very iconic guy in net. I remember him mostly playing for St. Louis. But Greg Millen, like he, a huge part of hockey broadcasting, and very, very respected. So, very much felt all across the NHL. You see so many great testimonials from all kinds of people on X, all day. So, tough. Like, lots of exciting things happening in the NHL, but also some sad stories this week as well.
Yeah, I remember the one Michael Bossy and Guy Lafleur back to back and everything like that. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. We welcome Mr. Luke Go Abs Go. Welcome back at PLW, of course. Mark Elliott knocked the door. Thanks for all the live we got. Another news around the and NHL, the Colorado Avalanche announced the captain. This is really impressive for me. Loan to the American Hockey League. Of course, it's a Fort Collins. It's about 30 miles for this, so for his house, so he can go there. And what is impressive me, the last game he played 3 years ago in NHL. And
The last time he was on the ice, he was lifting the Stanley Cup, Coach.
Yeah. So it's amazing to see that. We'll see what will be his situation with the Colorado Avalanche. But if ever he play with the team, that will be an impactful for the team, not only on the ice but off ice. And he's been around the team, by the way, and but still, I think there will be a plus. It's good to be see. You always want to see the best player on the ice, and
Yeah.
it will be the return of the comeback of the year, of course, for the Colorado Avalanche. So, what do you feel about that news from the Avalanche?
Yeah, it's great news. Like, good news for hockey. You feel terrible for this guy. He's been battling for so long. The key thing with him, like, he's come close before. It reminds me, for Habs fans, you can kind of compare it a little bit to the Carey Price situation, where it's one thing to get it to the point where it's healthy enough to play on, but then it's what's happening with him is the swelling. Like, the swelling just gets really bad. So what they're looking for from him in order to play is at least, have 2-3 weeks of really rigid, kind of rigorous action on his knee and see if he can recuperate. That's really the big thing that they're looking for from him. Coach, if he's able to even come back and play a game, you can pencil his name in as probably the winner of the Masterton Trophy this year. I think Sean Monahan's probably the lead candidate for that. Montreal, I don't know if you have that as a headline later, but we can talk about who Montreal nominated for that this year. I think we have a good idea. But in my opinion, if Landeskog plays one game with Colorado, I don't know, PLW, I don't know if you can find out what the odds are, but I would say the odds are pretty high that he would win the Masterton Trophy.
Here we go. The next one is about the McDavid return before the end of the season for the Edmonton Oilers. They are not played tonight, by the way. Oilers play against the Blues as a big game to watch after the show. And look like the captain of the Ottawa maybe not return before the end of the season. I'm sure it will be for the playoff, but this is to a team where one team is struggling, the other team looking good for the couple of weeks. Oilers with many injuries, but the way right now it's in the trouble because the King are looking good. So, of course, to add McDavid to Russell will be a great plus, but still, this is the thing right now. I'm not sure what could happen in the playoff, and Ottawa, but again, it's a team where Montreal is chasing. So, how you feel about the both team?
Yeah, well, hey, trust me, I know all about Draisaitl not being there because he's in my hockey pool and I'm in the finals against Steve G this week, and no Draisaitl, my best player, so I'm eagerly waiting for him to come back. But I know that obviously that makes a huge difference for the Oilers. Coach, again, like, I think we've talked about it. To me, this version of the Oilers is still not a better team than it was last year, in my opinion. Really terrible offseason with those offer sheets and just mismanaging their cap situation so that they were susceptible to losing both those players to offer sheets and questionable signings. The pickup of you're right. Like, LA is so hard to beat at home, and it's going to be pretty hard for Edmonton to come back and get home ice. So you feel bad for LA. Like, it's what, the fourth year in a row. Maybe Run with Kings can confirm here, but it's like at least 4 seasons in a row now that Edmonton and LA will be meeting in the first round. So fourth time a charm, fifth time a charm, maybe for LA. Kemper's had a really strong year. They just play so well defensively at home, coach. They don't score a lot, but we'll see. Like, it's going to be a tight series again. Even if Edmonton gets by LA, though, I still don't see them getting by whoever makes it out of the other division, right? So it's just, I just see Dallas or Colorado just being way more solid all around, much more depth than Edmonton, better goaltending and all that. So I don't see Edmonton making it back to the final. So, and for Brady Tkachuk, like lots of both Tkachuks, right? Like both Tkachuks, whether it's Florida or for Ottawa with Brady, like big misses for the team, right? Like these are really important players for both those teams. I suspect that at this stage, especially Florida, they're just kind of optimizing and resting their players for the playoffs at this point. They had a couple players come back against Toronto yesterday, and you could see a huge difference. Like we saw, Florida back to back against Montreal, and not the same team, right? Like it was great for Montreal to pick up those wins, but this is not the same Florida team that we saw last night against Toronto with a couple players back in the lineup. They had Barkov, Reinhardt, they had a couple guys back. So the Tkachuks, good news for Ottawa. Finally, like I don't know if you had that in the show, coach, but huge news for Ottawa. Ottawa kind of finally, backs into the playoffs, I guess. So very exciting times for Ottawa Senators fans. Brady Tkachuk will finally get to see kind of what he's like in the playoffs. Should be lots of fun to watch.
Awesome. We welcome back Julien, Rick Bengal with Dimitra. GF is on the house. Sam also. Welcome, everybody. Don't forget, please, to click on the like if you don't mind. That'd be great. Julien, go to answer to your question about 3 minutes. So stay with us. If you don't mind, that'd be great. The Flame got Zane Parek start his first game in NHL tonight against the Anaheim Ducks. What a great defenseman. 33 goals this season, become one of the top best season in the OHL at the level of Bobby Orr. And picked last season by the Calgary Flames. And look, this is going to be a great addition. I think he will never return in next.
OHL.
I think he's going to play with the NHL next season. Bring offensive. We talk about Lane Hudson. This guy can put a puck in the net. So this is great for the Flame. At the right time they play, and they try to catch up the Minnesota Wild. The Wilds now lead 2-1 against the Sharks, but they're still, I think that's a great piece of the puzzle as a right defenseman. By this, I don't know what happening, but at some point, it maybe the Flames try to improve their team. Possibility to open the door for Ramis Anderson or Wegar at some point. Not next,
Yeah.
not right now, but in the future.
Yeah. Well, hey, over 100 points, coach, in the OHL this year. So just a absolute like rock star in the OHL. I would say some differences, with Hudson. Like, I think he's more dependable or more intense on the puck than maybe some other offensive defensemen that you'd be worried about. But he does. I don't think he has the same compete level as Hudson does all over the ice, right? So it's a different type of player, but very exciting for Calgary fans. But yeah, like somebody that I think has an amazing personality, by the way. Like he's a lot of fun to watch, great in interviews too, like such a great kid. So it should be great for the Calgary market. Like I think he's going to be a real superstar in the NHL, just not only with the way that he plays on the ice, but just his personality is awesome. So great to see him kind of join the NHL. I know when we were kind of heading up to the draft, coach, last year, and we are debating about who Montreal should pick, a lot of people in this chat were wanting Parek, wanted Montreal to pick Parek, even though that there might be a forward there. I don't think anybody regrets Demidov, but I remember Parek was a very, very popular choice as we were last spring when we were heading towards the draft. I think there's a lot of people in our chat here that were big Parek fans. So exciting to see him join the NHL for sure.
I'm sure about that. For sure, we welcome also Kenneth from Thailand. Welcome back. Then you have, of course, Sam. We said that we have a Dementra. Welcome back, Dementra, with Rick and Bengal. Both of you, hopefully doing well. Glad to hear from both. Are great. Bush is on the house also. Thanks for all the like we got. We appreciate that. We miss you, Demidov and Rick. Been with us for many years. DH is in the house. Perry is in the house. Welcome, everybody. Don't forget to click on the like and subscribe at our Canadian show. Yes, we're getting there. We have one more to talk about this. The comeback of the NHL history. Usually, we talk sometime, Marco, and the people in the chat. We wish the game like NHL be like the NBA. You can miss the first 58 minutes of the game and then show up at the last 2 minutes in the NBA, and then you get like
Yeah.
back and forth, the score
Yeah.
changing back and forth. But it's rare in NHL, right? But what the Vancouver did yesterday, it's the biggest comeback in history. 3 goals at the last minute, and they win on overtime. And then
Crazy.
the Nashville Predators helped the Montreal Canadiens. When the New York Islanders was winning 6-5, and then they come back with a tie the game for Nashville. And then they win on overtime to 7-6. A crazy game also at the Bridgestone. So just 1 minute talking about what happening for the comeback yesterday.
Yeah, like Coach. I'll admit it. I fell asleep watching this game, and I fell asleep, and then it woke me up. Like it woke me up, and I think I woke up for the tying goal or something like that, just because the volume on the TV was so much louder because the announcers were screaming. So I got to see the last goal. I admit I did doze off because I had an early morning this morning, but I went back, I rewinded and watched the whole thing. What an awesome comeback! I'd be curious to see kind of what the lead, like, what does the NHL look like this year in terms of comebacks? Because it seems like there's more. Like you remember back in the dead puck era, Coach, right? Like if you were up by a goal going into the third period, forget about it. Like it was like 99% of the time the team would win, right? But just look at Montreal over the last, like they're number one in the NHL for third period comebacks, right? Nothing more dramatic than that, though. Like 3 goals in the final minute is insane. But I say what you want. Like people, we can complain about like officiating. We can complain about salary cap and all kinds of different things. But try to convince me that right now hockey is not the best it's ever been. I I love watching hockey. I've always loved watching hockey, but we're lucky. Like we get to see a lot of exciting games, and this one definitely was one of those. For Nashville, like such a weird team. Stamkos, really comes in the clutch against the Islanders yesterday. So thank you, Stamkos. Well, not only he's in my hockey pool too, Coach. So I was doubly excited to see Stamkos get a couple power play points yesterday for sure.
By the way, good luck with CFG. I talked about CFG yesterday, so I think it's
Yeah.
great. We wish you good luck for the final of the fantasy. Talking about the fantasy, guys, we want to talking about the bracket. NHL is open up today. We're going to make the league like we do every year. So stay tuned. We're going to provide you the bracket the next couple of days, so you can join us. We have approximately 10 days, I believe, for the beginning of the playoff, Marco. So
Yeah.
that's crazy.
April 6th.
But before we talk about the next news, Super Chat Perry. Here we go. Thanks so much, Mr. Perry, for the $10 of the super chat. I appreciate that. All the super chat help the channel to stay alive. So thanks so much for that one. I appreciate a lot, Mr. Perry. And thanks to be a part of the show tonight. Let's see we have got more about that. Like a Cutter Bear and Marcus Spence. Yeah, this is 2+B on that area. Also for the Montreal Canadiens pick, the pick is getting more lower and lower. We're definitely going to talk about this in the next couple of shows about what could happen and the pick of the Montreal Canadiens. Does also remind you of Ross Cotnall, what the speed. Ivan Cournoyer will be my pick about that. Cotnall was not the way at the end. Let's see what's going on here, Mr. Marco, we'll talk about this. The Masterton Trophy nomination was announced by the NHL today. The Montreal representative is Josh Anderson. And of course, the Masterton is about a little bit like a comeback, perseverance, and for the leadership and of this trophy. And they have a lot of great players inside of that nomination. I'll give you. And the Flyers beat Jonathan Quick. Now they lead 2-1
Ooh,
again, the New York Rangers. And that
yikes.
goal, I think it was on short and good. So not a
Yikes.
good news for the Rangers. Not a very good goal game by Jonathan Quick. But I think for me,
Super Chat.
Rick Bengal knocked the door for Sakaski appreciation. Super chat. Rick Bengal did it again. Thank you, Rick Dementra. Here we go. Thanks so much for that one, Rick. I appreciate for everything you do at the Hockey Nation show and all the people tonight. Gary Conway knocked the door. Welcome back, Gary. I'm not sure I saw you last night, Gary Conway, and we appreciate that. The Tampa Bay Lightning tied the Toronto Maple Leafs 2-2 about that. So let's see what about this. Give us a bit what you think about Josh Anderson, but I want to mention to you, Ovechkin, Marc-Andre Fleury, I believe is going to get it. In my opinion,
Mm,
I think Marc-Andre Fleury is going to be the winner of the Masterton Trophy. It's my prediction. I could be
mm.
wrong. But yeah, a lot of great name and the Masterton Trophy. But give us what you think about well deserved, by the way, I believe, for Josh Anderson.
Yeah, I think hard to debate with Montreal's nomination for the Masterton Trophy. Like I think Josh Anderson's had definitely showed a lot of perseverance, reinventing himself this year, really buying into his role after a really really tough year last year. So no, I think very well deserved for Josh Anderson. For me, Coach, the guy that I probably pick as a front runner for this award would be probably Sean Monahan, just with everything that first of all, over everything he's done over the last couple of years, but he had a really, really strong season for Columbus this year. Everything that happened in Columbus with Johnny Gaudreau and, overall Columbus is still a really, really good story in the NHL this year, even though it appears they might fall a bit short to make the playoffs. But for me, Sean Monahan would be the guy, I think. But, Fleury's a good choice. Lots of great choices all across the NHL for sure this year.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. By the way, I think if he was going to do it, he will wait another day to do it. Tyler Thorpe signed his entry level contract yesterday, and
Yeah.
it was under the radar after a couple hours. Thorpe, a 6'5" right winger with the Vancouver Giants, eliminate a first round by the Seattle with Catton, 68 game, 27 goal, 25 assists, 52 points on the playoff for 5 game. He has 1 goal. I think it's only 4 game, 1 goal, 1 assist. And the Rangers tied the game 2-2 on that goal by Panarin, I believe. And that's happening now. So we have 2 games at 2-2 at that moment. But Thorpe, what do you feel about Tyler Thorpe?
I love this kid, Coach. Like I thought he had such an amazing training camp. I was, really, really impressed with his release, and his size. So you can see his release there. Just a big dude, right? Like, so imagine when this guy really fills out. But I think he has really, really good hockey sense, like where to position himself. Pretty good puck handling skills for a big guy too. I think like if he can improve his skating, like his skating is not terrible by any means, but if he can, what is with these pink jerseys? What team is that, Coach, that they're playing right there? The
Yeah,
pink
it was the
jerseys?
time of the Pinks, the night of the LGT people,
Okay.
right?
Jeez, yeah, terrible, ugly looking. But no, I really like Tyler Thorpe. I thought he was one of the standouts in training camp and rookie camp this year. I think didn't they give him maybe like a game too, like in the regular camp? I can't remember if they sent him back right after rookie camp, but either way, I was really impressed with him. So he goes to Laval. I think it's well deserved. We'll kind of see what he can do there. Adding another depth piece. Like, can you imagine that line? Like, you have like Jackeye, Tuck, and Thorpe together. Those guys played together during the rookie camp. If you remember, like they love playing those three guys together. So we'll see if they reunite those guys in Laval. But yeah, really, really like him. I think he's a player. Like I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think he's going to make the Canadiens next year, but definitely somebody that I could see making an impact in Montreal's bottom six here in the couple years to come. Really, really like him.
Toronto score a goal, lead now 3-2. Second goal of Matthew Nice. tonight.
He's
So
also in my
congratulations for
hockey
tonight.
pool.
Yeah.
Also,
Thorpe, for me, Thorpe, I watched many games. Um, I also watch the highlights. He has an impressive release, wrist shot release. Is yeah, power on that shot. Remind me a lot Ryan O'Reilly. Now, Ryan O'Reilly is one of the best like in NHL, but you could be impressed by the wrist shot of Thorpe. Like you said, and Thorpe is going to be what happening there. But the news of the day was even Demidov is entry-level contract, termination contract with SKA. You know what happening for that? He's going to wear the number 93 for the remaining of the season. That said, it will maybe not change, but be careful with number 93. We'll wait to buy before I buy a jersey at Demidov. This season, he has 19 goals, 30 assists, 49 points for a 19 years old playing the KHL, beat the record of Kaprizov and Kuznetsov with the most points by any player at 19 years old. He's only played off a 6 game, have 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points. And now he's with the Montreal Canadiens. We don't know yet. He's in Istanbul in Turkey or somewhere, but I expect him to be a part of Montreal Canadiens the next couple of days. So huge signature, of course. Change everything, I believe now, and come at the right time at the end of the season, and maybe participate at the playoff. But give us, the reaction, the fans is amazing, the excitement and everything. But how you feel about that, Marco?
well, first of all, I liked 93. Like I like that number a lot, to be honest. But Coach, did we ever get this one wrong? Like and it's, we're not the only ones that got it wrong. Like it, I think everybody was just so shocked that Montreal was able to make this happen, right? Like we did hear some rumors, like in some reports over the last couple of days, right? But I just really didn't think it was going to happen. And I apologize. Like I think in the past I've come on the show and I didn't even think that he would be allowed to play in the playoffs for Montreal because I thought he would have to be signed before the trade deadline. But I guess I was totally wrong on that. So I think I've said that on air before. So guys, I apologize. I was totally wrong on that. All fronts, I was totally wrong on the Ivan Demidov stuff. So that being said, so exciting. I just really had no idea this was going to really be able to happen. But now that it's happening, not only can you feel the excitement in the Montreal Canadiens fan base, but Coach, if you're like me and you watch podcasts and coverage from all across the league, everybody's talking about this. Like all the different podcasts, all the different sports channels, they're all talking about Demidov and what he might look like. So listen, like I think right now there's a lot of questions as to kind of how this is all going to work out. But doesn't this feel like a little bit like we're turning a bit of a corner here? And that's like you're so right when you talk about the timing of it, because everything is kind of just meshing perfectly right now, right? Like, we have this amazing run after Christmas where Montreal just really put it together after a really, really tough start in training camp and a really, really bad training camp. And they had that really tough October and November. And then they started piecing it together and building. And then we had this amazing run after Christmas. And now we're here, right? Like we're 8 points up for a playoff spot. And then the cherry on top comes Ivan Demidov. It just, you couldn't plan any better. If you're writing Coach, you're a big fan of the movie Rudy, like that's the one movie that you watch is the movie Rudy, like one of the best sports movies. This is Rudy like, right? Like, it's a perfect script. Montreal, the underdog team that's rebuilding, somehow kind of like makes it into the playoffs. And then boom, like this young hot shot player kind of comes out of nowhere. So guys, this has the makings for just an amazing spring, and we deserve it. Marko D'Amico again, who broke the news, he said it best, right? He's like, Canadiens fans deserve this. We talked about it right off the top of the show, Coach. Like Montreal Canadiens fans have been super patient with this rebuild. I think Montreal fans are very knowledgeable. They understood exactly kind of what was being built here. And I think we're there. We had a lot of debates over the summer. Like, does Montreal need to kind of still go for a top 5 pick this year? And we just saw it happen naturally, right? Like some of the young players took steps more than we thought, and it's just a really really exciting time. And I'm sure we're going to talk about it, Coach. Like now it's the question is, how do you integrate somebody like Demidov into the team, right? I've seen some debate. I think Jeff Merrick was the one that was talking the most about how he would be a little bit concerned about injecting a player like this into the team, right? And upsetting the chemistry. I don't know if I believe that or if I'm not concerned about that, because Montreal's second line, you can't say that it's going to be difficult for Martin Saint-Louis to justify putting Demidov in the lineup when you have some of the lines that are that haven't been super consistent. Now, if you're going to demote Slafkovsky, or if you're going to break up the Dvorak line, that might be a little bit different. You can say that there's 2 out of the 4 Montreal Canadiens lines that it would be hard to justify to the team that you're going to break those up. But the fourth line and the second line, to me, those are still under construction going into the playoffs. We haven't found the perfect formula yet going into the playoffs here, right? So I guess that's the big topic, Coach, is we're all super excited to see him hit the ice, and I think we're all curious about how Martin Saint-Louis is going to integrate him here, right? The good news is that, so on the topic of integrating a player like this and it upsetting the chemistry of the team, I think the culture of the team is strong enough to kind of take on something like this, honestly, because everybody's pretty secure in their role. Everybody knows what their job is. So I think they're going to be okay. I don't know, Coach. Like, are you concerned? Like I know we're all like, we're not going to say no to bringing Demidov into the lineup, but do you share any of that concern? Like, that it could somehow impact the chemistry bringing in a guy like that?
No, I don't think so. I will set you a reason because it's like you add something can helping the team to winning. So I don't see it would be negative about that. It would be like a player where it's I just give you a name, but I don't focus on the name. No, but like Marco Sturm come in the team right now, right? That's the reason they said at the trade line, don't bring anybody, don't do anything, keep the team together. Now you add the future of the Montreal Canadiens. Remind me a lot. I'll give you an example. Cole Caulfield, when he joined the Montreal Canadiens, and again, Tampa, Marco was like 3, 4 years ago. I think it was open arm. I think you can see the expression and the excitement of Cole Caulfield, Lennartson, Sakoski, Suzuki about to add Demidov inside the team. I think this is just like going to be better. And for him, Demidov will be a great a great experience for him to see what looked like the Montreal during the vibe of the playoff. And secondly, the only thing for me I'm would be a little bit more difficult for him is the physicality of the game in NHL. For the rest, I have no problem for Demidov. I'm not worried about the speed. I'm not worried about how he's going to look like. But his biggest adjustment for him, it would be honestly the physicality of the game. Now people talk about the small of the ice. He play already, guys, and the small ice in KHL. 80% or
What?
90% of the ice. Like if he played the season 72 game, he played maybe 65 the game on the regular size
I thought
of
it was
the
all
rink.
KHL, isn't it? Isn't KHL all international size ice? I didn't think it
No,
was
it's
NHL.
and now it's 80% is NHL size.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
I did not
So
know that.
and the
Okay.
20% Marco is more like the team he does not play, or he play only one game or 2 game maximum. So at the end, it's really the same size and it's small. So it's just not. Its only problem you compare KHL with NHL is the physicality of the game, and of course at the playoff the game will be a little bit more uh, physical at the end. So maybe more no space, room. So that would be his biggest adjustment about that. Now, the people in the chat talk about who is going to play with, and what you would like him to play with, and how you feel about that.
Yeah, like listen, there's a lot of room for experimentation here, right? Like, so I think it's clear, you're not going to break up the first line and you're not going to break up the third line. Those are the 2 lines that are just going right now. The second line and the fourth line, like I just mentioned, like they're under construction still, right? Martin Saint Louis is still playing around with them, especially with the injuries that happened. Like they just tried Heineman up there. Heineman was kind of they had a really good set line with the fourth line for a long time. If it was me, like I would, like let's look at it. Like let's not make it about me, but let's look at what Martin Saint Louis has done in the past to try to see if that can predict what he's going to do in the future. So if we look at how he managed Lane Hudson when he first came in, I'd assume that it would be similar with Demidov, right? So who did Hudson play with when he first started off? He played with David Savard. They gave him a good, safe, dependable partner to play with. They didn't play him on the first unit power play because they didn't want to put so much pressure on him. If you listen to what Kent Hughes said also in his interview on TSN, they also, which is natural, they want to downplay expectations. And they said that they're going to play it by ear and they're going to be flexible with how they deal with him. So if I had to guess based on kind of all the things I just mentioned, I think they're probably going to start him off with Jake Evans. That would be my guess. It's not like Montreal's fourth line most nights, like it's been a little bit less recently because of Armia hasn't been playing as much, but Montreal's fourth line could play anywhere from like 10 to 14 minutes, 14 minutes some games. So it's not like a typical fourth line where they're playing 8 minutes a night or something like that. So even if you play him on that line with Evans, I think it's a good, dependable, predictable player that he can play with. And then you can, like, to me, if it's possible, I think it'd be important for them to rest Armia. Like he can't even shoot right now. Like he's playing with one hand. So it would be maybe an opportunity to play him with Evans and Kapanen maybe on the fourth line. And then there's nothing that prevents St. Louis from putting Demidov on the second line for offensive zone faceoffs, or if they're trailing in the game or something like that. That's just to start, guys. Like maybe for the end of the season, for the last 2-3 games that he plays, I think that would be the best way to introduce him, ease him in. Let's not forget, like these games are still probably going to be very important for Montreal. But I get the other argument too, right? Like you want to put him in a position to succeed for sure. But the question is putting him with Newhook and Laine right away not really a cohesive unit? You have to say, like, Laine's still really not playing that well 5-on-5. Newhook, he's played pretty well. But I don't know. It's like, to me, the safest thing to do and the thing to put him in the best position to be successful is put him with players that are dependable and that are easy to play with. And to me, it sounds like Jake Evans is the perfect candidate to kind of do that. So some people might think it's blasphemy. You have to put him right in the top 6 right away. But with a team like Montreal, it's a 4-line team, guys. It's not like Coach, tell me if I'm wrong, but there's certain nights where the Evans line plays as much minutes, or if not, sometimes more minutes than the second line for Montreal, right? So I think St. Louis is a smart guy. He'll look for opportunities to put him in the offensive zone with Laine and with Newhook. But that's my guess. What do you think, Coach?
See, I see this a little bit different. If you look about the last 7-8 game on Canadiens, the line that Jake Evans play more compared to the second line example. The role of Jake Evans is usually, again, the opponent best or second best line for opening things. So I think for me, because of that situation, I think Demidov would play more with Laine and Newhook because they play less minute, maybe 12 minutes, 13 minutes, everything like that. I think that's the reason. That's the only reason I said that. I think because Jake Evans would be more comfortable to have Kapanen or Heineman to be more responsible at the beginning with Armia at Demidov with that line. Because a normal 4 line, you're right, because he played less minutes compared to 1, 2, 3. I think Kapanen, Demidov could be there. But because now with that line play a ton of minutes, I feel like Demidov would play more with Newhook and Laine at the beginning. And it will protect him. And that's the reason I feel they're going to play at home and start in Montreal. And he will have the last words to use that line. And exactly like you said, at the beginning, it would be more on the offensive zone compared to the defensive zone. This is the only way I see friendly like you uh,
Yeah, it's not a bad point
about that.
about the matchup. Yeah, it's a good point about the matchups. I just like to me, it's again, it's about putting him with players that are predictable and easier to play with, and I just find that line is not easy to play with. But again, like if we're not like if we're talking about Demidov is not just an average player, right? Like like conceivably could be the best player on that line right away. Maybe he's the one that's going to be pushing play pretty much right away. So, I think the beauty coach, like the best case scenario is that if Montreal could wrap up their playoff spot here pretty soon, like if he's not going to play in Ottawa and Toronto, if by this weekend that could be wrapped up and there's less pressure for them to actually get points, then that opens up a whole new series of possibilities for Martin Saint Louis to kind of play around and try different things, and it's just a little bit less pressure on him to come in and experiment, right? So either way, I think it's going to be exciting to see him on the ice. I wouldn't be surprised if Saint Louis experiments with a couple of different options. But yeah, super exciting. Super exciting. Do you think in the short term, coach, do you think he just goes on the second unit PP, or
Yeah,
do you
that's
think
funny. Was my
Slafkovsky?
next question to you. I expect
Yeah,
him to be on the second unit. I think he would take the spot of Eneman. Now, right now was Kapanen, so he would take that spot because and then he will go with Gallagher and Madison and New Hook, and so I think it would
yeah,
be a plus for that. He would not do the same pressure. He would do the same thing what happened with Hudson with
that's
Madison
it.
at the beginning
Yeah.
of the season. So
So if you're
PLW said
Slafkovsky,
the Lightning tied the game 3-3. And with 8 minutes to go remaining, and the Minnesota lead now 3-2, back-to-back goal. First of all, City Bruni scored a goal, but a couple of seconds later, Eriksson AK scored a goal for the Wild. They take the lead 3-2
nice.
on that one.
I just want to
Demidov is
respond
going
to
to score 5 goals
five
in the
goals.
first game.
Right.
Look, welcome back, Gary Connery. A lot of people in the chat talking about
I just
that.
want to address like so Patrick's talking Mr. White's like saying that we're crapping over Line. So I'm not I'm not saying that Line is invaluable to the team, right? I'm just saying that 5-on-5, if you're watching the game, there's a lot of like he's been turning over the puck like crazy at his own at the offensive blue line and at the defensive blue line. So listen, I love Patrick Line. I think you're right. Like we wouldn't be in the position that we're in right now if he wasn't there. I think he's a lot of fun to watch. But in terms of his 5-on-5 play, there's a lot of concerns right now about especially turnovers that he's making at his own offensive blue line. That is the really scary part for me. So again, you can't say that he's a predictable player to play with. Now, is that combination potentially explosive and could it create some magical things? Absolutely. So I think we all see that, right? But again, if you're Martin Saint Louis and you want dependability and you're looking for predictability, especially in tight games as you're looking to make the playoffs, it's something that you have to look at. So we're not crapping on Line. We understand how important he's been to the team, but I think if you're being honest, he hasn't been super effective 5-on-5, especially with turnovers in the last 5 games.
And
So
1 minute, 8 seconds, 3 goals between the Sharks and Minnesota. Now it's 3-3.
wow,
So all the three games are tied right now. Toronto Lightning 3-3, Flyers 2,
wow,
Rangers 2, Sharks 3, and the Wild 3. So
crazy.
here's what happening with Patrick Laney, guys. It's simple in my opinion, right? You're going to love him and you're going to hate him. And he will give you this every game by his work ethic or his effort. And then, but you're not going to hear him for nothing for about X minute, and then he will release you a great shot and score the goal. This is what is Patrick Laney. So at the end, um, this is what you're going to expect. We would like him to be more involved, but as a title player is going to be like that. He's not a Retanen. He's not like Kyle Connors. He's not like a Very Nikushkin is a special player that way. He is, honestly. My only problem with him is because I would not resign him because he's getting slower, slower, and the game is faster. For me, I would try to get another player who can put the puck in the net for sure. A lot of comments in the chat. AI is back in the house. Thanks so much. But Bogle and Nature is in the house also. And but this is what happening with Laney about that. It is what he is at the end. I want to move in with other subject about this before we talk about the game yesterday. The Rocket News announced Jacob Fuller by Pascal Vincent expect Fuller to be a part of the play a couple of games before the remaining of the season. And one of the first thing is because Connor Hughes could be out for many weeks now as a goaltender, and that opened the door for Fuller. We expect Primo to start in the playoff, the goaltender number one for the Laval Rocket. But he said, sometime in hockey, everything changed quickly, and could happen the door for Fuller. So, and the last 7, 8, 9 days, Montreal Canadiens got Demidov, Tyler Thorpe, and Jacob Fuller. So he's getting better and better. So, what do you feel about Jacob Fuller's situation?
Yeah, and I think if I'm not mistaken, they just put Hughes. I think Hughes is injured, right? So it kind of opens up the door even more for Fowler, probably to back up the next game for Laval, right? So no question, there's a reason that they signed him. He's probably going to play some games. I don't know. It will be interesting, right? Like in Montreal, even though it's in Laval, technically in Montreal, we love a good goaltending controversy coach. So we'll see what happens. Like Primo, he better be on his toes, right? Like he's had such an amazing season in Laval since he was sent back down from Montreal. But like in the back of his mind, like he knows that if he slips, it's the whole Carey Price card, right? Like the guy coming from another league. That was a little bit different, I guess, with Halak, because I think what they did in Montreal when Carey Price came is they sent Halak to the World Championships, right? So it wasn't like they were directly competing against each other. So it's going to be a little different, right? Because Primo and Fowler are both going to be there. But listen, like Primo has been lights out, really, really great for Laval since he's been down. So we'll wish him all the best. But it's going to be really awesome to get Fowler some games here. I think the key for him is if he can get a couple of good games, it will just give Pascal Vincent a good idea of what he has in case he needs to make a move. If for whatever reason Primo doesn't kind of deliver in the playoffs, then you have a good sense that Fowler's right there. So it will be fun to watch.
That's you right about Fuller. I think also for Fuller, it would be good to have experience to be with Laval Rocket. This is the next couple of day players going to play with Montreal in the next couple of years. And I think to get that experience as a great signature. By the way, we did not mention that, and I apologize, but Tyler Thorpe is going to be with Laval Rocket. So we
Yeah.
talk about his signature ELC, but I don't think we talk about this. So as
Yeah. I mentioned what I mentioned earlier, coach, is this gives us the potential to see the line that we saw in the rookie camp. Remember, like St. Louis kept coming back with this line. He had Tuck, Jackeye, and Thorpe together. There was at least 3 games in the rookie camp that they played together. So I'll be curious to see if they play them together in Laval. That's a big line. That's a big, heavy line. It would be great to see.
You're absolutely about that. We want to talk about other things we have for Montreal Canadiens. This was a must-win for the Montreal Canadiens yesterday. The recap game between the Montreal and Detroit Red Wings, 4-1. We'd like to hear for all the comments in the chat. If you have any questions in the chat, you can ask us, and no problem. But you can also share with us what you think about the W or the Montreal Canadiens. We're going to bring you there, Marko, on this recap game. Here we go. Just quickly on that one, the magic number is 3 right now. Zuski have 2 points at 86 points at this moment. Montembeault stopped 35 of the 36 shots he faced. And the third line at 5 points. Josh Anderson, Dvorak, and Gallagher. Another comeback for the Montreal Canadiens. It was ugly to good to great. When I'm talking about this, it's like the Montreal more the game was playing. Montreal is getting better and better after they gave 23, 24 shot at the first period. and then they go all the way to the end. Montreal pick it up better, and you win with the veterans. So that's another example. Um, it's a great experience for the players, for the young kids. It's a great for the meaningful game. But the veteran is going to be always make its friends, and any time in NHL game, Marco, you cannot win with only a young team. You're going to tell me they are the second young team in NHL. I agree with that. If they made the playoff to be the youngest team in
Youngest.
NHL
Yeah.
history to reach that level. But again, I think you need a mix of veterans, and that's happening for the Montreal Canadiens. That's the reason yesterday you have a couple of players step up um, with the Montreal. So give us a bit your an overview of the game for the people, also for the chat.
Oh man, it was a stressful one, coach. Like that was a stressful game to watch. Like you said, like no question, like no brainer that Montembeault was the first star of that game. He was like 25 shots, 23 or 25 shots in the first period. And you could tell Detroit, fighting for their survival. Montreal, if I recall correctly, is the fifth game in 8 nights for Montreal. So yikes, really not as much energy as you would like. It's not effort. I think coach is just, you could see the execution wasn't there at all. The legs are just a little bit of a step behind Detroit in the first period, just not being able to connect on kind of like those quick passes to kind of get out of their zone, and in the neutral zone they just weren't able to kind of execute on basic stuff, right? So not establishing their ozone like we saw in the last game. I think what really kind of got their game going again was the PK. Montreal's penalty killing. I know it's only rated, I think, 13th in the league this year, which is a huge improvement over last year. But man, has Montreal's PK come up so big for them this year. And in the last couple games, I think the team has really fed off the energy that they've gotten from their PK. And you can't like Detroit's power play is insane since the coaching change and everything. I think they're like almost at 27% or something like that. So it was a very dangerous power play. I did not feel comfortable at many times while the power play was on the ice. Say what you will about Matheson. Again, he had another turnover, really costly turnover yesterday, but really, really lots of minutes on the PK, lots of minutes on the PK for Matheson. And overall, I think really strong game from him. So yeah, they definitely kind of fed off the good energy on the PK, weren't able to capitalize on the power play. I believe that's 5 straight games now, coach, where Montreal hasn't scored on the power play. So a familiar formula over the last couple of days, good goaltending, and the third line really coming through. That goal from Anderson was clutch. Did you have any kind of issues? If you're a Detroit fan, by the way, coach, would you be mad about the Anderson goal where he ripped off the guy's helmet before he went
Yeah,
in? Like,
you have some comments will pop up at the on the chat. Yeah, some comment in NHL said the reason he was the referee, the whistle of the referee.
yeah,
But I don't think he would be like this friends making about that. I don't
yeah.
see that way.
It was a good call, like lucky call for us. That it's not. I wouldn't have been shocked if Anderson got a penalty for. I don't think he ripped off the guy's helmet, but he definitely knocked it off his head, right? So,
Yeah,
but good awareness from him to see that opening. And if I was the defenseman in that situation, I think I would have just taken the penalty instead of just going to get my helmet and leave Anderson completely open. But one thing I wanted to mention too, coach, from the game that really stood out for me is the Caulfield goal. To me, is if you had to kind of sum up one shift of how Caulfield has evolved as a hockey player, it would be that goal, right? So I think everybody remembers, like, right before he scored the goal, he had an amazing back check, intercepts a pass from Detroit right in the slot, and then comes back, and then within a couple plays, not only does he break up the play and score, but it's how he scored, coach. Like, he went in front of the net. Caulfield got a garbage goal. Like, it's not a typical Caulfield goal with with like a nice wrist shot or anything like that. It was literally him banging it in front of the goaltender, in front of the net, like a really greasy goal, right? So this is not the Caulfield that started last year. This is Caulfield 2.0, the 200-foot hockey player that should make the U.S. Olympic team next year, in my opinion. So lots of positive things. Very lucky to get out with that win. But coach, to me, again, I was a little nervous about Detroit because of all the teams that are still chasing Montreal, whether it's Columbus, the Islanders, or the Rangers. The only team to me that's shown that they can go on a really long run over the last, say, 25 games since the beginning of the year is Detroit. Detroit has shown the ability to go on a really, really hot streak. Now, they had a horrific March, like really, really terrible March. For the second year in a row, they've had a really terrible March. But that game was so key, coach, because Detroit was really the only team that scared me because they have shown the ability to go on a run. So, they don't ask how, they just ask how many. And last night, Montreal was able to get huge goaltending performance, some clutch, kind of situations that happen, and they found a way. Like Martin Saint-Louis has been saying a lot recently, it's what's next? Well, what's next, in my opinion? The playoffs. That's what's next. I know it's not official, but last night made it pretty damn close.
Now, everything changed the time you talk. The San Jose lead 4-3 against Minnesota. The Rangers tie the game now 3-3 with 14 minutes. And the Toronto are going to be at the overtime against the Tampa Bay Lightning with 23 seconds to go remaining on that one over there. So
Yep.
that's a lot of things going on right now. A lot of impact of the game on that one. What a shot by
Rangers, Philly 3-3.
yeah. So we'll see what happening about that. A lot of comments in the chat. We appreciate a lot. Look, this game was really good for the Montreal Canadiens. They have a must win, honestly, yesterday again because the Detroit could be a little bit more close. It was another game of 4 points. With that, the Montreal right now are only 3 points behind the Ottawa Senators. So you never know. They play Friday night, so another game. Imagine if Montreal beat Ottawa, would be 1 point behind Ottawa Senators. So everything could happen about that for this. We'll see happening this. Welcome, Mr. Devin is in the house. And we have other people, everybody. Thanks to all the like we got so far. We appreciate a lot. Now, at the end of the game, we have to shoot out the obscure and the office for the Montreal Canadiens. So who are they?
Well, I think the obvious choice would be Montembeault first stood out. Like there's no chance Montreal's in this game without Montembeault, especially in the first period. But even at parts of the second period, he was really strong, right? So I think it's not like he's such a different goalie, coach. Like when he gets a little bit of rest, I think it would be great if Montreal could afford to play Dobesh a couple more times here down the stretch because you can tell like this is a really heavy workload for Montembeault, and I think for those of us like coach, we had this debate many times here on this channel. Is Montembeault a true number one goaltender? Could he play 55 games? And that's what this season was about. Remember, what did we talk about this year? Like the biggest thing for Hughes and for Gordon was to analyze and learn about kind of the players they had. So one of the big questions, other than Kirby Dach, is he a center and all that, is Montembeault. Can Montembeault play 55 games? The answer is yes. Like he can do it. And this is the first time that he's done it, right? So if he's in this position next year, and unless something changes, he'll have so much more information and so much more experience on how to deal with this workload that he's just going to be better off for it. So really impressed with Montembeault. For sure, for me, he's the guy that stood out. Like I mentioned, for me, the obscure is going to be Matheson because not many people are talking about it. A lot of people shitting on him because of some of the turnovers. I saw some people saying, well, Matheson has more turnovers than Laine. But guys, like the guy's playing like 31 minutes, all kinds of different situations. Obviously he's not perfect. I'm the first to kind of question sometimes his utilization, but it's hard to like with the PK right now is so effective, and he's one of the core pieces of the PK. So for me, I'm going to say Matheson because I just think that it deserves mentioning. In the office, I know it's not going to be popular, but I'm going to bring in Patrick Laine into the office, coach. Not for the offense, but the one thing I've been noticing a lot and again, let's be clear here, okay? I'm not asking Patrick Laine to be a Selke nominated guy. I'm not asking him to be perfect defensively. What I would really, really like to see him limit is turnovers at the blue line. As we know, those are some of the most critically dangerous turnovers that you can make is at your own blue line, whether it's on the offensive side of the line or in the defensive zone. And I don't know if you notice on the power play, those little backhand sauces that he's making to Hudson right at the offensive blue line. And then there's a lot of other kind of even 5-on-5. I find he's making really, really high risk plays right at the blue line. Again, if he I know that there's Martin Saint-Louis talks about this all the time. It's risk and reward. I have no problem with players taking risks and being creative and all that. You just have to make sure that you execute those or have really, really high confidence level that you're going to execute those, because those plays are really, really dangerous. So, okay, guys, I want to be clear here. I'm not asking for him to be perfect. And to Patrick's point, yes, I see effort. I'm not saying that he doesn't have effort. Some people call him lazy. I'm not calling him lazy. Like, I can see that he's back checking. Obviously, he's not as fast as we'd like him to be. He doesn't have that extra gear quite yet. Maybe after an off season, of training, maybe he can get a little bit of a step back. But it's all about just the risk reward, especially. And guys, don't take my word for it. Next game, watch what he's doing when he's at the blue line. It's really, really dangerous. It makes me nervous. So if he could just clean that up, if I'm saying I'm saying, listen, I'm giving you a lot of liberty. I'm giving you your minutes. Just please be a little bit more careful with those turnovers at the offensive blue line, because they're so, so dangerous. I don't know if you agree, Coach.
Wow. Stolen's just set a stop point on breakaway.
Nice.
The Rangers lead now 4-3. Scored back-to-back goal. And this is a huge game, guys, between Toronto and Tampa Bay, because they're still fighting for the first position. And they, if they have a choice, they don't want to play against the Florida Panthers at the end. On my opinion. So Billy is in the house. Roger is in the house. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for being a part of the show. And we appreciate a lot over 70. Another breakaway Toronto. Big save for Vasilevsky. So very interesting.
Coach, can I get your, what are your thoughts on what I just mentioned, though, about Laine and those turnovers on the blue line? Have you noticed the same thing?
It's remind me Sakoski.
Yeah.
Sakoski did the same thing about that. The Flyers tied the game 4-4. And the Minnesota tied the game 4-4. It's crazy tonight, Marko. All the goal in the third period. But this is only second period between Minnesota and the Sharks. Listen, I think, like I said before, Laine, if you expect this, you're not going to get it. That's not Patrick Laine. Patrick Laine is an offensive player. You're going to score a goal. And that would be what it could happen to him. If we need is better play at 5 versus 5. This is what I'm looking for him. Now, he play with players like Newhook and Kapanen or whatever it is. You're not going to get the Toronto win on overtime.
Yes.
And who scored a goal?
I don't know. I'm watching Rangers.
Matthew Nice.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just got a lot of points in my pool. So first of all, Stolars is my starting goalie, and I have Matthew Nyes, and I have Morgan Riley to dress tonight. So should be a good night for me.
I give you a good night for that one over there. On this one. So for me, Laine is going to be that who he is. Honestly, if frustrated at some point, it's up and down. We need more on the second line.
What I'm saying about Laine. So again, if you're saying again, I'm not expecting him to be perfect defensively. I'm just very specifically, it's the turnovers at the blue line that he has to limit. It's if St. Louis is going to play him in those key positions, those key minutes, especially if you're going to have him playing with Demidov, if you're really going to roll with that, I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't think it's wrong for us to expect that he understand the risk, especially with what I'm saying, with those plays right at the offensive blue line. Like you can't continue to make those same mistakes. It's not unreasonable for us to expect that from him. Like, and we know he's not going to be perfect. I'm not saying he has to be perfect. It's like the same. It's the same thing that he keeps doing with that one specific turnover. So to me, it's something that's correctable, right? It's something that he can choose not to do. So I don't think it's unreasonable for St. Louis to ask him to do that.
Would be really interesting what happening for sure. The playoff for him. Now Toronto knocked out the Tampa Bay Lightning on that one for sure. So the standing for the race for the playoff for Montreal is really interesting. But the top of the three team in that class season, Marko, is really interesting too. Kucherov completely missed a backdoor shot, by the way. But Matthew Nice, great. And Malkin O'Reilly got an assist, by the way.
Nice.
So that's happening there. Di Roger 4-4, the Wild and the New York Rangers, guys. We're going to go back on that game, on that one. So that's happening here, guys, on the stood out. But for me, stood out Montembeault, I think was there. Obscure, I have to go with Caden Coley. Coley, guys, play solid for the Montreal Canadiens all the time. Shut down, play physical, play again the best of the best every night. At the office, Jaden struggled yesterday.
Yeah, a couple turnovers there. Yeah.
Yes, it was not his best game yesterday, in my opinion. So I will go with this. I know he played only like 10, 11 minutes, but I don't want to be negative too much because they won a big game over there against them. So that would be that. It'd be easy to go with stood out and Lane Hudson, right? But I will mention to you, Lane Hudson, the shift he did when Anderson missed the puck, missed the net.
Oh yeah,
it was the momentum
incredible
of the game. Opinion that's changed completely after that. Everything, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
and exactly, Coach. That's why I think both of us have made the point on here that I think we both agree that Hudson is Montreal's MVP this year. I know you can make the argument for Suzuki, and it's hard to disagree with that, but like there's so many games this year where you can directly point at a shift like that Hudson did, where Montreal had zero momentum, zero energy. And if I, as a fan, as I'm watching the game, when Montreal's not playing well, what I'm looking for is, okay, when is Lane Hudson coming back on the ice? Because we need something to happen. And he's the one that makes things happen. So to me, that says a lot. Like, again, I'm not saying, like Suzuki is right there too. It's very close. But to me, the difference maker is Hudson. He's the one, like, again, Suzuki, like there's a lot of points in the game where he is a huge difference maker as well. But I just can point to way more times where a game, like you said, the momentum of the game or a key part of the game was on the blade or on a shift from Lane Hudson. For me,
you're right about that. Definitely. Look, with that win, another season of 100 points for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Consistency year after year. I know people are going to talk about the playoff. But that's another story for another time. The combo, the dream of Lane Hudson with even Demidov, Mr. Marko. I don't know how you feel about that, but this is going to be a very interesting combo. And I want to show to you the shift yesterday. Look, Hudson, what he did to Justin Holt. Look, Josh Anderson missed that one. But again, now he's racing again, Berggren. Again, Berggren lose the puck until at the end he's going to recover there. And then you have Demidov, guys. Maybe for me, his best goal of the season for Demidov for all the goal he did. Great shift, great on the back ends. And that was, again, the S6 essays during the season. But again, look his shift right there. Look the move right here. Whoops. There we go. Another done on the back end. It's coming out for forehand on the back end. A top shell is got the goal. This is, you're going to see this, guys, not only this season, not only next year, but maybe for the next 15 years, guys. I don't know how you feel about that, Marko, but this is who they are. And this is going to be the reason why the fans are excited.
There's a lot of parallels, right? Like, I think they both admire each other because they kind of see similar qualities to their game. like to me, it's the shiftiness and the creativity, right? Like the ability to kind of like it's their agility, and the way that they can move different ways and break ankles, so they're very similar. And I think, I think Hudson in his interview with Marko D'Amico, talked about how, he's been trying to follow the Canadiens and watching clips and everything. And, he's been watching Hudson and he's really impressed with Hudson and his technical, actually used the words, the technicality of Hudson's game. So you can see that there's a mutual admiration there. And it's going to be really exciting. I think all of us are really, really excited to see kind of how that's going to play out. There's going to have to be patience, coach, because again, we think that he's probably not going to be on the first power play unit right away. But similar, remember I was talking before about how Primo probably feels a little bit of a hot seat because Fowler is right behind him, and he needs to kind of maintain that play because he knows Fowler is there. If I'm Uri Slavkovsky, I'm a little bit feeling maybe a little bit of the heat, not for his role in the first line, because I think his role in the first line, to me, the chemistry that line has, I think is great, right? Because they need somebody to go in and win puck battles. Like he's just going to continue to get better at that. So I think his role in the first line isn't really threatened for the most part by Demidov, but his role in the first unit power play, though, tell me guys, like, and I'm curious in the chat, if you're going to have, let's say, if it's not this year, let's say at least next year, Demidov is going to be on the first power play unit. I think we all agree that's going to happen, right? It would be crazy if he's not. Whose spot does he take? It's not going to be Caulfield. It's not going to be Line A if Line A is still there. It's not going to be Suzuki, and it's not going to be Hudson. So if I'm Slavkovsky, I'm feeling the heat for that first line, that first power play unit. So it's going to be exciting to see Hudson and Demidov. We'll probably mostly see it 5-on-5 in the first couple of games they play together, but it's not going to be long until both of them are on the power play together. And coach, I'm not sure where you would put. Would you just have Demidov on the right circle and you keep, Caulfield in the bumper? Like based on kind of what you've seen from Demidov in watching him so many. By the way, for those who don't know, coach watched every single Demidov game, stayed up super late. So, if you guys are just learning this channel, if you want Demidov intel, this is the guy, right? Because he's literally watched every Demidov game this season. I don't think there's many Habs podcasts or talking heads out there that can claim that they've watched every Demidov game. So we're very lucky to have a guy. I wish I had the time to do that. It would be fun to do. But so coach, based on everything you've watched from Demidov in the KHL this year, if you're Martin St. Louis, where do you put Demidov on the first unit power play when he gets there eventually?
I'm going to surprise everybody here. I'm going to remove Patrick Laney.
Wow. Wow.
I will
Wow.
put Cole Caulfield at the spot of Laney. Similar, same thing. Because the problem you're going to get with Caulfield, Suzuki, Demidov, and Laney, who play in front of the net.
Yeah.
You have nobody. You have no screen. That's the reason Sakeski is going to stay there. And Caulfield can do the same thing. And Laney for sure with the Montreal is a short term. So for me, that will be the reason I put Laney out on that one.
But coach, can Montreal really deprive themselves from that weapon on the first unit power play while he's there?
The power play of Montreal is the same number and better a little bit now slightly without Laney on and compare Laney and the power play.
You mean so? Okay, so if you look at Montreal's power play numbers,
so from October to December before Laney played, the number now is a little bit better at Laney now with the power play for the remaining. Now we have more game. I understand that, all right? So it's
but you're saying so you're saying, but the power play percentage hasn't changed dramatically with Laney in the lineup, is what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay. So interesting. Like I get your point about net front presence, but aren't there power plays out there that is that absolutely necessary to have a huge body in front of the net? Like does Tampa really operate that way? Like they have Braden Point in the bumper. Who do they have in the front? Do they have like I don't think they have a big body in front of the net.
For the
Tampa?
second unit,
No, for the first unit.
but it was Sakaski right there at the goal line.
I'm just comparing it to other power plays in the NHL.
Oh,
Is it absolutely necessary to have a big body presence in front? Like it's more goal mouth, right? Like you want somebody, kind of, at the goal mouth, like to
but
do goal
usually
mouth.
you have like Tampa Bay. The many year was Killorn was right there
Yeah.
around that part. Yeah, Kucherov, Senko, the point at the bumper. The problem we got is like for Montreal compared to the bumper players, we don't have that bumper. It was always using Caulfield and Zuski, the loop of Zuski from the top and coming down after that. So that's the reason I believe me, and that would be happen for Montreal to keep that screener around there.
For me, I would probably try Demidov in the bumper spot. And just I would probably have probably have Caulfield play on the right side, but just move around, right? Like I know Suzuki really likes to, how Suzuki likes to kind of go to the top of the zone and then he likes to come down the right side and take a shot that way. So on the right side. So I don't know, like I think we all agree though, like Slavkovsky, and I'm curious, like it's gonna like Slavkovsky, it's gonna impact his overall. Like I don't have the numbers in front of me, coach, but like what percentage of Slavkovsky's points this year came on the power play?
You have 9 points.
Yeah, so he's gonna need to create a lot more 5-on-5 because my prediction is that he's not going to see a lot of first power play units minutes with Montreal moving forward. So we'll see how it plays out.
Exactly. Steve is in the house. I know understanding people will a little bit, but think about this. If you have Caulfield on unit number one, on the unit number two, now you have also Lenny. That's an upgrade over Kirby Doc on unit number two, right? That could be now on the side, and that would be helping the left side about that. At the beginning, I don't expect Demidov to be a unit number one. It's going to be a unit number two. And but again, I think that's the way I see that because Lenny is not going to be with Montreal for the next 5 years.
I get it, but so listen, that would be a very gutsy call, coach. I would be shocked if Patrick Laine isn't on the first power play unit unless for whatever reason his conversion numbers start to go down. Like until he stops shooting the puck the way that he does, I think it'll be very hard to not have him on the first power play unit. I'm not discrediting what you're saying. I like there's other dimensions to the power play. And the one part that I really agree with you, Saint Louis talked about this a lot. Saint Louis really believes that a good power play, it takes years to build chemistry to do that, right? So if you're correct, and if they really believe that, it would make sense not to have line A on the first unit because they would want their core players that are going to be together for years to come to start getting reps as soon as possible. So you might be right, but it's a gutsy call for them to not have Patrick
Now, I
Laine on the
asked this
first.
question, Marco. Took the Flyers score a goal, lead the Rangers 6-4.
Yes.
Now, think about this, everybody in the chat. Remove Patrick Laine for the full year.
Yeah.
Put Cole Caulfield on his spot. How many more goals Cole Caulfield get
4.
if you take the spot of Patrick Laine from December all the way to tonight?
Coach, I've said this before. Caulfield isn't a good one-timer guy. He doesn't have a good one-timer. He's a catch and release guy. So if he was playing all those minutes and they had somebody else, I estimate he'd maybe have an additional 4 to 5 goals, maybe.
He have 15 goals, I believe, Lenny, right?
No, he's got 20. In the power play, he's got like 18 goals. He's got 20 goals.
Only 2 goals on 5 versus 5, I think.
I think so, yeah.
So,
or maybe you're right. You could be wrong. But yeah, 15 or 16.
If you add the half of the goal.
Yeah.
So you're only losing 7 goals. But with that,
I don't think you would.
But that line on the second unit number 2, the strength of 5, 6, 7 goal could be reached right there at the end.
He's not, but they're not getting the second unit's only getting like 35, 40 seconds. Like the thing with Line, to get him that shot, it takes a lot of maneuvering, a lot of puck movement to open him up, right? Like usually the second unit doesn't have time to screw around and get set up. Like most of the plays that you see from the second power play unit are very, very like to the net, right? Like just low to high plays, traffic in front of the net. And sometimes that works really well, right? Like sometimes going back to basics works well. But to me, like the secret to unlocking Line A's one timer, it's not like the teams know like they're going to cover that. So the only way to really unlock that is you have to get the penalty killers to move around. So the likeliness that you're going to free up that shot in 30 seconds on the second unit, especially the reason the second unit is on the ice usually is because the puck was cleared. So not only do they have to set up the play, they also have to get the entry, and it's so hard for a second unit power play to get set up, and they don't have much time to do anything. So I don't know, Coach. I was with you until that part. I don't think Caulfield would have more than an additional 5 goals if he was in that spot all year, just because he doesn't have a natural one timer. He has
No,
he has a
but
great
he
shot.
has the natural to score on the wrist shot, and the puck movement be better low side with Sakeski Hudson to reach Caulfield. That's the reason I believe he's going to be the same number of the goal at the end with 6, 7, 8 goals exactly with Lenny. And the next
I
two
don't know.
years, Lenny will be gone. You're going to
So I
destroy the
agree with you.
chemistry of the team. Who is going to be now? Put Sakeski out or put Caulfield out of the power play number 1. What do you? How you feel about that? How do you going to feel about that?
I just told you, like,
Your
so
first overall pick 2022, and now you're going to tell him, look, buddy, I'm sorry, but I'm going to put you out of the on that one. The easy way is to put Lenny out of this unit number 1.
so again, you're talking about two competing priorities, right? If you're Martin Saint Louis, your first priority is to win games, right? Now, if you're Kent Hughes, and like I said, Coach, I don't disagree with you because Martin Saint Louis himself has said that the best power plays are power plays. It takes years for them to build chemistry, right? Not just one season, years of guys playing together over and over and over. So if you take that theory to the extreme, then maybe you're right. Maybe Martin Saint Louis decides that, you know what, for the long term future of the team, I need my core guys to start playing together now. And that means I need to move Line A off the first unit. Maybe. But
But
that's, like I
again,
said, it's
it's not like a bold move. I just feel for
it
me.
is bold. It is bold. For sure it's bold.
No, my point behind that is like a long term, I see a chemistry more with Sekeski Demidov. But now I'm going to surprise everybody. You want a bold move?
Sure. Let's get bold.
Don't be surprised to see Sidney Crosby with the Montreal Canadiens next season.
Oh man. Coach, don't start this. Don't start it.
Don't be surprised to see
Don't
Sidney
start it.
Crosby with the Montreal Canadiens next season. So, Marco, I will ask you this for the people in the chat. What it would be the cost for Crosby?
Well, I think Pittsburgh will for sure want at least one of your first round picks in
No,
2025.
both of them.
Yeah. So at least, right? Then it's going to cost you it's going to cost you either Mayu or Weinbacher or Gouli, something like that. And then it's going to probably also cost you, maybe Beck. So maybe it's like, if you're Pittsburgh, if you can get Montreal or Calgary's first round pick, we'll say Reinbacher or Gouli or Mayu plus Beck, something like that. At the very least, that's what it would cost.
Okay, I think you're a little bit more too demanding about that. I think
Okay.
the Pittsburgh are going to completely shake the français, shake like a band. Flyers score a goal and empty net, they're going to beat the New York Rangers. The Rangers
Yes.
are eliminated tonight.
Is
And
that
I
right? So
think,
they're officially eliminated?
but they are going to be now 8 points between the Montreal Canadiens with 5.
No, but if the magic number is
The
3,
Magic
then
drop at 1, I believe, with that win.
yeah, so I think they only can afford to lose one more point. If I understand, like, I'm terrible at math, so in the chat, correct me if we're wrong, but if the magic number is 3, if the Rangers lost 2 points, does that mean they only have one more point to lose?
Yeah,
Or
so
does
it's
that
like, yeah, I think it was the Magic was 1 point after that. What I heard today,
yeah,
I could be wrong. I did
yeah,
not look about everything about
yeah.
this. My
And
point, Marco, is
does that
tomorrow
change
night.
Montreal's does that change Montreal's magic number that Rangers
But
lost?
again, the Rangers drop at 1.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
And
Okay.
with that, remember tomorrow the Islanders play the Rangers.
Yeah.
So this is one of the two teams. And then Detroit play, the Blue Jackets guys play a back-to-back game against the Washington Capitals, by the way. So,
Yeah.
but listen,
Yeah.
go back at Jeff at St. Crosby. A lot of people say he never leave the Pittsburgh. I
Mhm.
can understand that. I understand. I'm not trying to be no, you're wrong. I understand the possibility is really low. But remember, Pittsburgh are going to be now on the direction of rebuilding. Montreal Canadiens can afford. I think Marco, you was a little bit too high. I think the first 2 round pick of the Montreal Canadiens with Mayu or Owen Beck could move Crosby in Montreal. I don't think both of them have to go there. I
So I
think
think the key thing for Crosby, coach, is that if he gets moved at all, he's going to go where he wants to go. Now, we all know that he was a Habs fan growing up, all that stuff, right? But the real question is, will he want to go somewhere that he's going to have a legitimate chance to win another Stanley Cup?
but
Now,
yes, yes,
okay.
honestly. But with the Montreal, what happening this season?
Oh, so that's where I was going. So there's no question that the relevancy of the credibility of Montreal as an organization over the last month. And again, don't take my word for it. Like you can just see, like, if you go watch other podcasts and you just look at coverage overall, like, people were still laughing off the Montreal Canadiens like less than 3 weeks ago. But with everything going on, and now with Demidov coming, you can see, like, the whole NHL is starting to come around to the fact that the rebuild is turning a corner, right? So I totally buy that. But to say that they are going to be a Stanley Cup contender next year, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I don't know. Let's not get carried away there, because one thing, coach, that and again, I don't want to be negative. This is all positive, right? One thing that we see a lot, because, coach, remember we talked about with these rebuilds, it's not always linear. It's not always a straight line going up, right? One thing you have to remember is when you bring younger players in and you have older players that leave, like as Savard leaves, as eventually when Gallagher goes and Anderson goes, and you continue to integrate younger players, is like, in order for Montreal to continue going forward, Crosby would be amazing, because it would be a great opportunity to add more experience with those young players, right? But if you're Crosby, then is that really your best opportunity to win a cup, right? I certainly not next year. So
Now, the
everybody's obviously
Crosby to move Pittsburgh, the only location he will play is in Montreal.
you don't. Well, the big one is Colorado that everybody talks about, right? Obviously.
Remember, he's not looking to win another Stanley Cup
What makes you say that?
because he already did it.
Okay.
Okay, so for him to play where he dreamed when he was young, he grew that. The relationship he has with Can use everybody, I think that's the reason behind that. Now, again, unless he's going to make it,
Crosby.
and then it's a bit what
Crosby.
not Can use is looking for. But if Montreal have everything to fit what Pittsburgh tried to accomplish the next 2 years, that's my
Well,
point.
Montreal has the assets to do it for sure. But sorry, when you say Kent Hughes has a relationship with Crosby, what's that like? I didn't know there. What's the relationship he has with Crosby?
For Ken
Ken
Hughes.
Hughes. Yeah.
For Ken Hughes, before that, he was agent.
Yeah.
And
He
before
wasn't
that,
Crosby.
I'm sorry again, he was not
He
agent at
wasn't
Crosby.
Crosby.
He was not agent
No.
at Crosby. But the way Ken Hughes is building that team is the way
Oh, okay.
what Crosby is looking for. And for me, I understand a lot of people would be disagree with me. I don't say he's going to make it, but I think for me, a national Crosby for the Montreal Canadiens for the next 2 years and maybe three
It'd be
years,
amazing.
that will be helping the future. Can you
Oh
imagine
yeah.
Crosby, Demidov, Lane example?
Well, yeah. Well, listen, nobody's going to disagree with you that if like he would be like, in the top 5 guys that you would want like perfect fits to bring into Montreal next year. You're not going to get a debate there. It's just really, like I said, like the big question. Because again, coach, like you might think Pittsburgh is and Dubas are for sure going to rebuild, but I'm not 100% like we've said that the last 3-4 years, coach. Like Washington did this summer. Like you don't think Crosby looked.
I think I click on something to Marko freeze. Okay.
Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you get it now. I click on something
Okay.
on my computer.
So listen, I know Crosby's probably really happy for Ovechkin and everything that's happened to him. But if you're Crosby looking at what's going on with the Washington Capitals this year after the summer that they had retooling and everything, you don't think that there's a wish for them to be able to do something similar? They have a lot of cap space this summer,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
So I don't know. It would be amazing, coach. Don't get me wrong. If Sidney Crosby ends up in Montreal next year, I'm going to be more excited than you can ever. I think it'd be the best thing since sliced
But
bread.
again,
But
like I said, you talk about bone move. I just mentioned that. I was not like
all right,
all day I think about this. So it isn't. I have a.
it'll
I
be
did
awesome.
not connect with Sidney Crosby today, but I feel
Okay,
like
okay, okay.
it's just the star I line to go that way. Now it's a bit not what you want to get. No want to get a 35 years old older, everything like that. But like you said, I agree with you. What he can bring to the table, that would be
Yeah,
amazing.
well, this is a
Um,
Hall of Fame player. It's not just any other late 30s. This is Sidney Crosby. Like it's not the same.
yeah,
It's
we'll
different.
see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happening for that one over there. Um, we still have 15 minutes. I want to go to the clash, if you don't mind. Some of them is a little bit what we talk about this early for the people also. Why not to get both Crosby and Ovechkin for 1 year? Chocolate Gate with no calorie about that. And some people talk to me said maybe Malkin. Uh,
Yeah. I don't know if Malkin can be like nice connection for Demidov. I like the Russian connection there. I'm just not sure how effective Malkin can be over an 82 game schedule and stay healthy and everything. Like it's a little tougher for him. Like, you know, I'm just as long as it's not Kuznetsov, coach. I don't know if you saw, but Kuznetsov also left SKA St. Petersburg after they got eliminated. So as long as Ken Hughes doesn't have the crazy idea that hey, maybe we should reunite Kuznetsov and Demidov in Montreal, that would be
it's
the one
just
I would
like
want to avoid.
Malkin does not produce at the rim at the way Crosby
No,
does. Does it make sense?
no, and it's his health. It's his
Yeah,
health too, right? Like he's just not
yeah.
as
So,
yeah.
but again, we'll see. Here we go. The clash for everybody. This is not for the Montreal Canadiens, but Boston or New York Rangers return in the playoff next season.
Um, can I
Or
do I have to
Rangers, right? Not said both of them, but one of the
okay.
two.
Yeah. I'm gonna say not at all for Boston. But I'm gonna say absolutely for the Rangers. I think that they're going to I don't know if Drury's gonna be the one to do it, but I suspect that they're gonna move things around and there's just too many good players there, and you have Shesterkin there as well. So I think they'll turn things around. I suspect that that they'll be at least compete like for sure competing, if not be in there next year.
Yep. Um, would be interesting what happening for them. Um, It's crazy when you think about this. Rangers was the winner of the President Trophy last year.
It's I don't know if that's ever happened before, Coach, where there's like a President's Trophy winner not to make the playoffs the next year. I'm sure it's probably happened before, but without question, it's the biggest disappointment in the NHL. Some people might say Nashville. If it's Western Eastern, then the biggest disappointment in the Western Conference is Nashville and Rangers for sure in the East. But yeah, it's I can just look at this game, like, against the Flyers, like, it's just pretty inexplicable. Like, that's what happens. Like, it's a leadership, right? Like, and when I talk about leadership, I mean in the executive office.
Yeah, I go with
You know,
absolutely. I don't think so, both of them. I think Boston's going to be another hit, and the Rangers too next
oh yeah,
season. I don't see them. And then you have the progression in Montreal. You get
Buffalo.
Islanders going to, maybe not Islanders, but New York Islanders or Detroit is going to be a little bit better too. So we'll see what's happening, but I don't think so right now. Here we go. This one, Demidov is going to be a generational talent player in the future. So I'm
Coach,
going
like,
to
you're
go
cutting
that
out
way
like
for be sure
crazy.
understand. I'm not talking about McDavid, but a guy can reach 100 point a few years during his career.
I don't know if it's just me, Coach, but you are cutting out like crazy. I don't know if you can even hear me right now, but
I can hear you very
um,
well.
it's cutting
Can you
out
hear me
quite.
now?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
So Demidov, a
You can
generational
still hear me?
talent. Yeah, yeah. He's a generational
Okay.
talent plus, and for me, the minimum is 100 point.
Uh that's a tough one, right? Like, I want to see how he adapts in the NHL here. Like, it's too early for me to say this, Coach. Like, I really don't know. Like, I don't know if he's generational. Like, to me, that's the top level of classification. Like, there's generational, and then underneath that there's franchise, and then there's elite, and, like, there's different ways you can classify. Generational to me is like McDavid, and players like that, McCarr. So if I had to choose right now, I'm going to say not at all. I don't want to kind of set expectations as generational. I think more like he's going to be an elite player. Some people have been talking about Hudson as a franchise player recently. That's started that conversation with that recently. So we'll see. But I I think it's a little bit of a stretch to expect him to be a generational player.
By the way, Erickson AK scored his 4 goal of the night, 7-4 Minnesota.
And guess who picked him up for tonight, Coach?
You you did it?
I did.
You did Erickson?
I did.
Did he was with
Enter
Habs
tap.
Nation?
No, enter tap. Enter tap dropped him.
Ready?
Yeah.
Nicholas have a rotor alternation by J. Every time that, so I go with Abin absolutely about that one. Do you think that Ab finished 7 and the race this year? So
I
the
think it's gonna
spot
be
of
close.
Ottawa.
Yeah. So I don't think so. And to be honest, I don't want them to. I think I would prefer them to play Washington over the Leafs, to be honest. I just like the matchup a little bit. So I'm gonna say not at all. I think I think Ottawa will finish in 7th.
Here we go. Good evening, Alex. Welcome, everybody. Don't forget to click on the like. We're missing one to reach 80 likes, Mr. Marko.
Wonderful.
The rebuilding is over for the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, well, so Coach, I've been talking about this for years now on this podcast, right? But we've talked about phases of a rebuild. So the asset collection phase is over, for sure. And I think the roster construction part is just beginning, right? So we're just starting to see some of the assets that Kent Hughes has collected. I've said this here before. The hardest part of the rebuild is constructing the roster. Now, right now, we're super excited because some of the players that we've been waiting for are showing up. And, like, so we have Demidov, we have Hudson that's going to win the Calder. will potentially have Coach and I. We haven't talked about this tonight. Has it ever happened in the NHL where a team had 2 years in a row where they had a player win the Calder Trophy? Because that's a realistic possibility for next year. That Hudson would win this year.
It's happened with the New York Rangers in 1955, 1956.
Okay.
Montreal did not do it. I think they did not do it, but I think you have 1 year it was really close. I thought to Blake or someone else. But the only one, if I
So,
can recall it, because I searched on this like this a month ago, it
yeah.
was during those year, the New York Rangers.
Yeah. So, well, if it has happened, it hasn't happened in a long time, right? So listen, lots of exciting. It's an exciting time because we're starting to see some of the pieces. Like again, next year we're gonna, maybe we're gonna see Ryan Bacher. In a couple of years, you're gonna see H. So you still have and Coach, we've talked about a lot of the players that some of the players that are on the roster now, and some of the players that we're excited about might not even be on the team in 2 years from now because Kent Hughes, the biggest part of the job now is putting together the puzzle. I think Montreal is pretty much done collecting pieces of the puzzle, but now he realizes he has a good sense of which parts of the puzzle, pieces of the puzzle he's missing. So now he needs to go find the missing pieces by trading in some of the extra pieces that he has, right? So the rebuild is over in a sense, but it's the phase one of the rebuild is over, and now we're in the stretch drive of the rebuild, which is really constructing the roster and going with that phase. So almost there.
See, I would be disagree with everyone on that one. I see not at
Yeah.
all. The rebuild is going to be rebuild all the time. You all consist to rebuild all the time. Now
Wow.
on the rebuild is going to be happening again next year. You're going to add maybe a Fowler example. You're going to be maybe Rebo, Anderson, Gallagher example. The year after that, you're going to bring Michael Edge and the lineup. That's another piece of the rebuilding about that. So rebuilding is always piece of the puzzle. Now, of course, we are not at the
Mm.
foundation anymore. We not just put the, now we're going to get the next level, the second floor, the first floor. We put the wall right there. We're building the wall. But I believe, in my opinion, you always try to rebuild at some point.
I
And
think we're saying the same thing, just using different words.
okay,
Like to me, the word rebuild is when you tear it down and then rebuild, right? So so if you look at it from like that way, the tear down is done, the collection of assets is done, and now it's like constructing all with all the so like you said, right? All the pieces are there, but now they're using the pieces to construct the house, right? So yes, it's not over, but it's definitely like in the third it's like three quarters the way done.
maybe what you try to do with same and maintain, like you had fun phase on the rebuilding.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
now we moved the phase one to the F two. And he said we're not going to get top 10 anymore. You may be right
Exactly.
about that, right? But he's still missing piece of the puzzle to get that team builder and to get that team better. And that's the reason I say it's not rebuilding. I think we're missing a second center. And now we're going to
Yeah.
see the next 2 years, the departure, the Carey Price contract, the Brendan Gallagher, the Josh Anderson contract right there. You're going to a progress and developed front player like Michael Edge, Jacob Fowler, David Rebacker. So it's building right there. But you're usually right. It's fun ways to see that expression about that. So let's move on to the next one. Should remove Sakeski for Demidov. He was a bit in the chat a little bit early, but it was a question tonight, so I don't want to step up. So absolutely not at all.
So do you mean from the power play or the first line,
Yes,
or what do you mean?
for the for the. But I'm going to change the question. All right, I like that on the first line.
Not at all for the first line. Like I said earlier, I think again, could it happen? Like, are there let's say, Slav is not playing well, or let's say, you're really pressing for offense and Demidov's having a really like is it impossible that Demidov will ever play with those two guys? No. Like I think he'll probably at some points play there. But to me, the chemistry between that line is perfect, right? Like it's like the perfect line. You have a playmaker, you have a shooter, and you have a guy to win battles that can make plays. So to me, the chemistry of that line is perfect. So I think in the long run, that will be that line. But again, is it possible that he's going to play there sometimes? Yes, but I don't think if you're going the majority of the time, I don't think Slav will be removed from that line, and Demidov is going to take his spot. For the power play, though, different story. Like I was saying before, I just don't like in the short term. Maybe in the long term, both Demidov and Slavkovsky will be on the first unit. I don't think right away, this year or maybe if Line is there next year. I get your arguments, coach, and maybe it'll happen. I just I think it'd be really hard for St. Louis to remove that weapon from the first unit power play. So if you had to choose though between Slavkovsky and Demidov next season, I get that like Slavkovsky is a big body, but I just don't envision that they're not going to give him eventually a chance on that first unit power play. So I'm going to say absolutely Demidov will replace Slavkovsky if Line stays on the first unit power play.
Okay. So to give you an example about that, for the people in the chat, leave Sakeski and Caulfield and Zuski together. Sakeski, how many points going to give to you per year?
I think high end, like probably like 75 points.
Okay.
80 points.
He did not reach 50, over 50 yet.
Yeah.
And 2 years play with
So
them. If you put Demidov,
so
do you think that line become better?
So again, coach, like maybe from a philosophical perspective, I think we don't always agree on this one. I like a more balanced lineup, so I don't think you necessarily need 100-point players to be successful, like, so to me, I would much rather have a balanced lineup. I think, in the end, if you can have Demidov with once they have the proper second line center, I would much rather have two lines that are going to score roughly the same amount of goals rather than front loading one line with all your best players. That's just now again, if you're trailing in a game, could that change? Like, do you load up your lines at some point during a game? If like, I'm not saying you can never play them together. It's just my own personal philosophy of how I like to see teams built. Like, it bugs me when I watch the Edmonton Oilers. It absolutely drives me nuts. Like when I watched them in the playoffs last year and they keep loading up Draisaitl and McDavid together. I get that you'll do it at some points, but like if you remember the game 7 of that Stanley Cup final last year, coach, I was in your chat and I was yelling at everybody. I was trying to tell everybody how I felt about this, but do you remember the end of game 7? Like McDavid and Draisaitl had zero energy left because they're playing so many minutes, and they like, to me it's way better when you spread things out because you're just going to be fresher. You're going to be able to roll these lines, and you know how strongly I feel that in order for a team to be successful, everybody needs to have a role on the team. I don't like it when you have like two teams. You have like your first line that plays, has like 70% of the responsibility, plays way too many minutes. So listen, I get what you're saying. Will the first line be more productive in terms of points if Demidov is there? It's hard to argue with that. We haven't seen him play in the NHL yet, but if he plays up to his potential, there's no question that's what it looks like it would be. But my own personal philosophy, I much prefer to have the complementary, and I agree with PLW on that. Slav is the perfect complementary piece on that first line. And now it's just building around Demidov on what you're going to do on your second line. That's the biggest question.
So now, if you think about that, Kucherov, Point, and Stamkos.
So what's your?
Demidov, Caulfield.
I don't understand the question though. You're.
My point behind that, like, you play a specific role, but you have Stamkos, Kucherov, a Point. Last year, 50 goals, 130 points, and 45 goals for Stamkos.
They didn't always play together though, Coach. They weren't aligned all season long. Like Point and Kucherov played together at certain points. Like they didn't always play on the first line together. That's my point. Like you can't just again, it's a philosophical thing, right? Like in my opinion, you don't always have to take your top 3 scorers and play them together. That's all I'm saying. You can balance your lineup
Me, I
around.
feel in Montreal be you bring your best player Demidov and you put them on the second line. That's the comments I got for the chat. I disagree with that. It's like
Look,
Kucherov, I would let you play on the second line
but,
because we
but we
want to
don't know
balance
that.
the line. We want
But we
Palat
don't know
with
that
Point
yet.
and Stamkos.
But we don't know that yet, Coach. Like we're projecting that Demidov will be Montreal's best player, and we hope so, right? But we'll see. Like bottom line is that
Here we
if
go. Draw right there, the goaltender, Bennington. He's in the middle of that. And now a Shine with Key. And now Perry right there. And Bennington
which game,
start everything right there. Hey, Perry
which game are you
dropped the
watching?
glove. Here we go. With Neighbor. Neighbor is Perry, guys.
St. Louis, Edmonton. Okay.
That's prepared the way. That prepared the playoff right there.
I love that kid. Neighbors, he is so good, man.
He's
Really, really
smaller at
plays.
Perry, and he still fight Perry, guys. Now both of them going to come down here right there. Wow.
I love that Neighbors kid, though. He's so good.
Incroyable. You see that? The Sharks now scored a goal 7-6 with 9 minutes to go remaining on this third period.
Jeez,
Minnesota
crazy,
and
right?
the Sharks about that. Here we go. We'll
Crazy.
move on with the next one, if you don't mind. We pass the time. That would be not good. It would be harder to beat the Washington Capitals over the Toronto Maple Leaf.
Yeah, I think I kind of teased my response to that earlier. I'm going to say not at all. I like the Caps as a matchup more than Toronto, to be honest. I'm a little concerned about the Caps goaltending. And that Toronto's had really, really solid goaltending, and they have two really good goaltenders. They have Stolars, and then they have Wall too, that's been playing really well. And I just think overall Toronto, to me, has a little bit more depth. And I just like their forward group a little bit more. I'd be more concerned playing Toronto than the Capitals, to be honest. I know the Capitals have had an amazing season, but to me, there's still a little bit of a question mark there. Like, I think it's a better matchup for Montreal to play Washington.
Celebrine scored his second goal of the game.
Awesome.
I go with Washington, in my opinion.
You prefer to play Washington?
Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
And do you know why?
Is it different from what I just said?
It's because I'll be sad if Toronto beat Montreal.
Yeah, like it would be stressful. It would be stressful to watch.
If Washington beat
it's
us,
hard.
Marko, I would be okay. I would say, okay, it is what it is, right? But if Toronto beat the Montreal, I'd be like completely down for a couple of days. So
Yeah,
I would not
I
accept
would
that.
I would almost have to not watch YouTube for like a year if that's the case, because every Leafs podcast I watch, I couldn't watch it anymore because it would just hurt too much. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. So we'll be interesting what happening for sure. And I just want to finish with you before you leave the preview of the both game between Ottawa and Toronto
Ooh.
Maple Leaf. What your expectation? What are you looking for? What you want Montreal to accomplish? Whatever it is, and we're going to finish the show that way.
It's going to be a tough back-to-back. Like, Montreal, these couple days of rest are going to be really, really important for them, because I felt like, the last couple games, it just really haven't had as much energy as they need. So, so I'm gonna hope that at least they get 2 points out of this. If they get 2 points out of this, I'll be happy. But I think it's going to be tough to. I don't think the winning streak is gonna. I don't think we're gonna win both games this weekend. I think it's going to be tough. I think we have a better shot against Ottawa, to be honest, because Ottawa
Yep.
still has a couple of injuries, and we've had their number this year. So it would make it fun if we could win against Ottawa. Then at that point, it makes the rest of the race where they're still chasing the 7th spot. Toronto is playing really good hockey right now. They had that tough game against Florida, but I think it's going to be tough. So if I had to guess, I'm going to say we go 500 on this one, and we'll win in Ottawa. I'll be watching the game with my brothers who are Ottawa. Some of them are Ottawa fans, so it should be a fun watch live too. So I'm hoping for my
Montreal,
own enjoyment that my brothers don't get to celebrate right in front of me.
Montreal beat Ottawa 4-1, 5-2, and 6-3.
Yeah.
And the Blues score a goal.
Yes, sir. Suter. Still can't
Ransoler,
believe it. How many teams are paying that guy right now? There's 3 teams paying him, I think. Suter. He
41
got bought
years
out.
old. So why not to get Crosby at 38?
I have coach. You don't have to convince me to get. If Sidney Crosby wants to play in Montreal, I'll drive him to the airport. No problem. I'm right with you for sure.
So they take the lead 1-0 against Edmonton Oilers on that one. And
St. Louis got to get right back on the horse. Like they lost, their winning streak got broken last game, so got to get right back on the horse
it's going to
and
be
not
very
have.
difficult weekend for Montreal, a back-to-back game, right? I think the game in Toronto will be hard.
Yeah,
I know the traveling is not big, but still, it's traveling and it's more fatigue. And will
yeah,
be interesting. Ottawa, I feel confident for Ottawa. The challenge Montreal Canadiens right now is to try to beat Ottawa to get close to for them, so they have some kind of the motivation. For the people in the chat, who do you put your goaltender during the bowl game? Marko going to finish with that.
yeah. I'm gonna go with Monty against Ottawa. Just put all your eggs in one basket. Like go with your best goalie to try to get the points, and then it's to me it's bonus points. So if you can go all in, try to get your points that you need versus Ottawa, and then hope that Dobesh can come up with a Florida-like effort, stand on his head, and steal a game for you, right? So I would go Monty first in Ottawa, and then Toronto for Dobesh.
Yeah, I feel the same way for that. Because the game, most important game, honestly, is Ottawa and
Yeah.
Toronto. We're not going to see Demidov until Monday night, it look like, but we'll see what happening. And then before you leave, we're going to ask you, what are you looking for, Mr. Marko?
I want to make sure that we start seeing some better starts from Montreal. Like that's definitely another pattern that we've seen is really the inability to come out and have a good first period. So I think we love the magic third period comebacks, coach, but it's not sustainable over a long period of time, right? So we have to start thinking like a real playoff team, right? Like what do playoff teams start doing at this time of the year? They start thinking about, okay, we need to refine our game, get ready to play games, that we can win in the playoffs. So I want Montreal to focus on playing a good, solid game. Try to use their energy, be disciplined in what they do, and try to come out a little bit harder in the first period so that they're not always having to come back. I think would be awesome.
Thanks so much to join everybody. Hopefully, don't forget to when you leave the building to click on the like. James, welcome back. Mile is in the house. RDP, of course, a lot of people in the chat, guys. Hopefully, you enjoyed the show tonight. We appreciate it a lot. Don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow night to watching the game between Islanders and the New York Rangers. And of course, Friday night, Ottawa. Saturday, Toronto Maple Leafs. Sunday night, we're going to do the weekly report. And Montreal going to play Monday and Wednesday next week, finish the season 2024-2025. Possible tomorrow night, Mr. Marko. Montreal maybe make the playoff automatically if you have some team losing tomorrow. The magic shift number now for the Rangers is 1, and that will for the Montreal Canadiens always be a 3-3. The Flame played against the Ducks, and the Minnesota lead right now 7-6. Marko. Against San Jose with 6 minutes to go remaining. The Flames tried to chasing the Wild, and they play against them Friday night. Another great matchup until the end of the season. They still have some kind of fight at the Atlantic Division or the Pacific Division, Oilers and the Kings. is on a fight right there. On the Central, it's more about the Minnesota will try to get the key, the spot of the playoff right there. And honestly, on the Atlantic, at Toronto, the Tampa Bay, and the Florida, and the Montreal Canadiens. So still a lot of decision to see what is going to be at the end. So we appreciate you, Marko, to be with us tonight. I can wait to see you next week. Unfortunately, next week, maybe we're going to do Tuesday, if you don't mind, to that Montreal play between both the game Wednesday night.
Yep, no problem.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
Have a great night, Marko. I will see you again next week. Thanks again to join us.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
All right. I'll conclude the show tonight, guys. What a great opportunity to have Marko with us at the Notebook Show. Hopefully you enjoy everyone here in that chat. And don't forget to be back again tomorrow night for the game we're going to do. Of course, the music will be out a little bit at the end. But remember, be well, be healthy. Find a way not only to dominate the day, or find a way to dominate the first half. Or what? Someone said 2025. Here we go. We wish you an amazing great night, everybody. Don't forget to come back tomorrow. Don't forget to click on the likes. Until then, my friend, the Hockey Nation Live Show and the Habs Nation want to tell you one more thing. We love you, friends. Have a great night. Thanks so much, RJ Calabro, all the moderators, the people click on the likes. Whatever we agree or disagree, whatever it's fun opinion, the only thing we do at the end is because we all respect all of you. And that's the most important thing. That's the reason people come back. And we're getting there. Even Demidov's coming. Montreal in the playoff. I know you don't like to want to say Sidney Crosby. But it's a dream for me to have Sidney Crosby with the Montreal Canadiens. I think it will be fun to see them number 87. By the way, Demidov is going to wearing the number 93. Only one player wear the number 93 and the Montreal Canadiens in the NHL history for the Montreal Canadiens, number 93. And the player was Doug Gilmour. Good night, Luke at PLW. I can't wait to see you next time. PL1 Manor with the Montreal Canadiens, Dan RDM and LDP. Thanks so much, everybody. And of course, at the end, booyah! Good night, everybody. Peace out. Ray Allen, good night, buddy.